Hello, I'm Linden Tibbets, founder and CEO here at IFT. Welcome to another edition of Ask Me Anything with Linden at IFT. So to get started, Happy New Year. Feels like a fresh new start, 2021. We even got new IFT swag. Pretty excited about that here internally. Without further ado, a couple quick announcements. We talked a couple times in the past couple months around additions to things that pros can do. We're happy to say that the multi-same actions is now available across all platforms. I think when we spoke back in December, it was just available on web. So really excited to get that out the door. And we've got a number of new things rolling out soon, almost all of them based on the feedback and input we're getting from Ask Me Anythings like these and other ways in which we're gathering input and feedback from users just like you. So keep it up. We're listening. With that, I'll jump right into questions. So Balla Addict, you said you're planning to implement something with AWS and Flutter as if available in AWS. So we don't have an official AWS service on the platform, and we don't show up as kind of an option in any of the AWS marketplace or other ways in which you can kind of add things to your AWS instances and services there. But would love to hear more about what you'd like to do with AWS. So we're always listening. We've taken a look at it in the past and felt like there was some interesting things there, but it was maybe a little bit too detached from specific kind of consumer-oriented use cases. But maybe things have changed, or maybe we weren't looking in the right places. So would love to learn more. Joseph says, you make your Google say cuss words. I do a little bit of that too. Keep that on the hush. We don't want Google to find out about it, but it's kind of fun. Let's see. Hippie and Magic says, you've gone pro, but would love to see more RSS, especially kind of in the same league with some other rival services. The ability to include time and date would be a great start. Hippie Magic, please share more. Would love to understand more about what it means to include time and date, and then what are some of the other kind of top features or things that we're missing on RSS or our feed service that we can add. So would love to learn more. Leonardo is asking, any plans to further develop Spotify integration? For example, an action to play music. Seems a very common request pretty much all the time. Leonardo, so we'd love to add more to Spotify. One of the challenges with Spotify is some of the limits around what you can do with different types of APIs. So the type of API we integrate with Spotify is, I'm not sure what their specific term is, but it's more of a cloud or web-based API. They have a number of APIs that are more oriented to players, I think really specifically like device-based players. So, if we were building a voice assistant or a car in-dash stereo, they have some APIs that are a little bit more client-side. And I think those are the APIs that have a lot more kind of play, pause, things like that. And it was unclear, at least a few years ago, if those types of features were available through the web APIs. But those APIs evolve and change all the time, and we should take another look and see if we can actually do some of that stuff now. Big Othera says, better RSS would be a selling point for Pro for many of your colleagues. That's great to hear. Just like Hippie and Magic, would love to hear more about how we can make RSS and feeds better. So please share more. We've actually got a kind of a running list of some of the things we'd like to do with RSS. The date and time one, I think, is new relative to what I've heard so far. One of the things I can recall on that list is including things like the title of the feed itself as an ingredient, and a couple other additions that we can make. So love to hear more specifics. Another question from Leonardo is asking, would editing capabilities of some of the existing custom applets be expanded to allow adding, changing, or moving triggers and actions? Yes. In fact, our team is working on that right now as we speak. So it's something we hope to launch here just in the next handful of weeks. And it's one of those kind of missing gaps. Based on what we launched with Pro, was very much kind of version 1, and the ability to edit and add stuff after you've created an applet is something that's I think really missing. In fact, I really think of it as more of a bug that you can't do that. So it's something we want to try to fix as soon as we can. See, Carl is saying you use if mostly for content syndication on the web. Can I have more than one account? So yes, that's a very common request. And we haven't made a lot of movement towards that yet. It is right at the top of the list of things we'd like to do. Since that is a little bit more of a net new thing, we've gone 10 years without that feature, and that's 10 years, probably 10 years too long. But it's really a net new feature that's not necessarily a bug. Kind of like the applet editing is probably like incredibly frustrating to not be able to do that. We kind of prioritize things like applet editing over adding multiple accounts. But like I said, that multiple accounts one is right at the top of the list once we get out of kind of bugs and into net new features. Carlos is asking, you'd like to know how to create a simple trigger from your Android phone to then activate a pre-composed miscellaneous social media post. I think it really kind of depends. So kind of depends on the Android trigger side. What type of trigger is it? We have things like location, things like battery. I think there's still some things we can do with SMS. So it really just kind of depends on what event on your phone are you looking to hook into. And either we currently support that, or it's something that we should look into supporting if it's available. And then on the social media side, again, it kind of depends on which social media. So in terms of it being pre-composed, you could basically pre-compose that message within the applet, kind of type out what it is you want to say or add a picture or something like that. But then you'd want to change that each time. You might take a look at a service called Buffer, which is available on IFTTT, and they have a number of features. I'm not sure if they have specifically kind of this idea of a pre-composed post, but you can certainly kind of create posts and then wait for those posts to go out or schedule those posts to go out in the future, kind of at the right time. And I think they support pretty much every social network that they can. So that might be an interesting service to look into as it relates to using IFTTT for that use case. Luke is asking, any update on the battery logic for Android and iOS? So we haven't started work on that. It is in our backlog. It's one of the things, in fact, this year we identified actually trying to build and add more triggers, queries, actions to some of the what we call IFTTT-owned services that aren't really attached to any other brand. So like the Android location or Android battery is one of those. So yes, it's still in the backlog, but we haven't picked it up and started working on it yet. Thank you for your patience. Would love to get to that really soon. Yeah, Hippie and Magic, agree. Multiple accounts, very common requests, and I can totally understand why. It's something we want to get to very quickly. Leonardo, is there any client provider you have been scouting to allow for family group location services like Life360? In fact, other than Life360, I'm not aware of other services that do that. And specifically, I think Life360 did a great job of kind of helping a family, kind of organize different things around location awareness. Is anybody from the family home or away? So kind of taking a set of family members, getting them to all install an app, and then allowing different things to happen or adding different kind of functionality based on that family member's presence. If you know of others, I'm sure, I haven't even done the Google search, services like Life 360. But if you know of others, please let us know. And I'll make a note to just do a quick search and see if there's other alternatives out there. And we continue to have a great relationship with Life 360. Our current plan is to work with them over the course of this year to bring those services back to the IFTTT platform. They were going through a pretty big API overhaul. Is one of the reasons that they kind of unplugged temporarily, is at least our hope. So Carlos, manual button. Okay, so like I guess this is a follow-up from your original question about triggering something on Android. So we do have what we call widget services. Again, those are kind of IFTTT-owned services. They're not attached to any other brand. But for Android and iOS, there's kind of 3 different flavors of widgets. There's just a simple button. So exactly what I just said, just a button. There's like a button plus a little text field. So you can like add some text. So you could actually type out that social media post. And then there's a camera. So you could basically take a picture and I think alternatively, perhaps even add a caption, but then send that picture to some social media. So check out those, just search in the IFTTT app, widget, and you should see, note widget, button widget, and camera widget as things that you can use. And you can actually, on Android, it's pretty cool. You can bring those out as kind of like home screen shortcuts. So you don't have to open the IFTTT app. You just open the camera app or open the Notepad app. Brian is asking, you have MyQ installed on my garage door. Is there a way to set a geofence so that once I pull in the driveway, the door opens? So the geofence part, yes, you can use the location service. The opening the garage door right now, no. So MyQ made the decision to not allow their users to open their garage door via APIs or IFTTT. And that's something that, again, we respect that decision. I think they originally made that decision, basically because they thought there was some risk from a security standpoint. You don't want your garage door opening at the wrong time or in the wrong situation. And so I would actually lobby MyQ directly if I were you to get them to change that, because we can't change what they make available to IFTTT, but they certainly can. And we do have a number of other garage door openers and door locks that have decided that open is okay. And if we try to do everything we can to make sure that the user is in complete control and has everything in the activity log to know when something's opened, you can even get a notification when something runs. So if your door opens at the wrong time, you're at least getting a notification about it. So I think there's a lot of kind of backstops there that hopefully mitigate or diminish the risks involved in something as, I think, sensitive as opening a door to your house. Rashida is saying to add applet title, please. Give me more information there. I'm not sure I quite understand what you're either asking or stating. Michael Harris says, hello. Will we have Twitter thread support in the future? You've been trying to create threads to no avail. We would love to add threads. I think one of the challenges is going to be, is threads something that's available in the API that we're using? So, my understanding is that there's a new Twitter API. It's probably available there. So we'd probably have to do quite a bit of work to migrate over, and maybe that's worth it, and we should start to take that on. But yeah, this is the first actual request I've heard for Twitter threads with IFTTT. We'll make a note and have our team take a look. So certainly Twitter is one of the most popular services. So anything we add there is obviously going to be, very well used by users, because we have so many users using IFTTT and Twitter together. Luke is asking, Google Maps has location sharing services. Is there any way to link into that? I know Google Maps and even Apple has their own kind of version of location sharing. My guess is they probably don't open that up to other developers to link into. They, of course, whether it's on Android or iOS, if you have a mobile app installed, a developer can build things around location for that mobile app. But I would almost say with 90% confidence that you can't actually, as a third-party developer, tap into some of that location sharing service that Google and Apple provide distinctly. I could be wrong. Please point me in the direction of either docs or info about how we could hook into it, but agree that would be really cool if we could. Leonardo, yes. Yeah, we're excited too. So please be patient there. Don't have a date, but that's our current understanding. Manoj is saying that the Fox News service is not working since last December. Yeah, we'll have to take a look. I'm unaware that that's not working. But we'll certainly take a look and see what we can do there. Stephen, how do you edit an applet? Well, if you go to the applet, there should be either a settings icon or like a little edit pencil. You click that and you edit it. There's some other videos. We've got a great series of videos. I think one's called Building with Ben is the new one. And those are kind of tutorial videos or videos that, kind of have some kind of video, kind of screen sharing and step-by-step instructions on how to do things. So I'd suggest you check out our YouTube channel and look at some of the other videos that we've posted. And I almost guarantee one, if not multiple of them, have examples of somebody going into and editing an applet. Hippie and Magic, you're saying, does the Do Button app still work? So I am not sure. We have stopped supporting and updating the Do apps as of like 5 years ago. Now the APIs, I think, still work, and we've seen some people still using those apps. So we've tried to keep those APIs up and running for the folks that have somehow kept that app going for all this time. We originally had millions of people using those apps. We moved all of that functionality. So there's no loss of functionality, even if you delete the standalone apps, and they've just moved into, the IFTTT as widgets. So, your same applets that you've set up in the Do apps translate into the same types of activities and things you can do just within the IFTTT. We're one of those startups that learned the hard way, along with folks like Foursquare and others, that having multiple apps, unless you're Google or an Amazon or Microsoft sized company, is just nearly impossible to support and grow. So we decided to go from what was like 4 apps back down to 1. But we were careful to try to keep a lot of what people were doing, because some of those Do apps were, I think, fairly well utilized. So we kept that alive, but we just consolidated it all back into the IFTTT. Alex, you're asking for Discord. Yes, I agree. In fact, I've been using that example internally when we talk about building services. Yes, we should build a Discord service today. My guess is it's still going to take us a number of weeks, if not months, to actually get to it, but would love to build it. We have a lot of people using Discord and webhooks in other ways right now. So yeah, we'd love to add Discord. Michael says, you'd love to see a way to create a Twitter thread. Got it. Yes, using a reply to ID field. Makes sense. So let's see if that's available in the API, and we'll see what we can do. Carlos, you're asking, is there any capability with Zapier? So if doesn't integrate directly with Zapier. Zapier has a number of services that if doesn't. IFTTT has a number of services that Zapier doesn't. Functionality is, I wouldn't say 1-to-1, but it's pretty close. So kind of depending on what it is you're looking for, I might be able to give you a more concrete answer there. Jan is asking, hi, Linden. Hi, Jan. What about an else function that would add that option to do another action? Got it. So we do have multiple actions. So at least that's covered. And the pro users. So if you upgrade to pro, you can create an applet that has still just one trigger, but you can have multiple queries. So basically you can bring in other data. Is it raining? Is your current location this one or that, work or home or something like that? And then from there, you can use that additional data from the query to then make decisions on which of one or more actions to run. So you have to kind of plug all of those actions into the applet, at first, but then using what we now call filter code, and we're building some kind of UI-based stuff, so you don't actually have to know JavaScript to use this. You can make some conditional, including if, then, else type statements to decide which actions to run, which ones to skip, depending on the data that you pull into the applet. Luke, do we have any Canadian banks that are doing services like the UK banks? So we've talked to a number of Canadian banks. I believe some of the folks are actually in progress building. But I do think that both the Canadian banks, the banks here in the US, are frankly just moving a lot slower than some of those banks in the UK. And I think that's largely a function of one of the things that the UK has done well from a regulatory standpoint is basically a mandate that consumer banks have APIs. And I think that has created a whole lot of momentum, both from a competition and new startup banks, but also for some of the bigger banks to invest a lot more in innovation teams, mobile, things like that. So they've really kind of pushed that age-old industry into the future through some smart regulation, I think. So would love to see some of that come here to the States, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, Alex, Discord would be awesome. I agree. It's such a popular service, and it's just it's a clear signal that people are willing to jump through a lot of hoops with webhooks to make Discord and IF work together. That it's something that we should look to add. Oh, and it's not a jumper, but it's just like a long sleeve T-shirt or sweatshirt. We don't have any of the swag available externally yet, but maybe we should. We kind of just make it and distribute it to the team each year. If my guess is we'd probably have to ask people to pay for at least the costs of it and shipping it. But if that's something you'd be into, maybe we should look into that. Luke, do you have any plans to make a trigger that allows you to trigger Bluetooth beacon or Wi-Fi beacons? So this has been something that has been suggested a number of times. We've looked into it, as of probably 3-4 years ago. I think the real challenge there is we really need a service that's built on top of those protocols or those devices for this to make sense with IFTTT. So, through the mobile apps, we could, of course, build some things that would look for, a Bluetooth beacon or a Wi-Fi beacon of some sort. But to really do something interesting with that, there probably needs to be some other additional layer where there's like a user account and you might aggregate across other devices. So, for instance, the service that comes to mind is a service like Tile. Tile is basically a Bluetooth-based tracker tag. We'd love, working with them to get on the platform. We'd love to see them launch. And I know there's a couple others like that already on the platform. So I would suggest kind of looking for those kind of consumer-oriented services built on top of that technology, and either push them and or us to start working together. Yeah, auto guitar. How old am I? I forget sometimes. I am almost positive that I'm 38. So I have been working on IFTTT for over 10 years now. So started probably in my mid-20s. It's been a hell of a ride, and hopefully I haven't aged too much over the last 10 years working on if. I'm starting to get some of the white hair. Maybe it makes you look a bit more, I guess I can say presidential now and not have a lot of negative connotations. Yeah, so Walter, there seems to be a disconnect between IFT and my queue. The applet detects my geo boundary change, but has no apparent connection to my queue to activate the door. That sounds like it's something that I probably can't help you with just over the AMA. But Walter, if you want to hit me up at Tibbets on Twitter, give me some more info. I can do my best to track down the problem. And if I can't figure it out, I can pass you over to our community team who stands even a better chance of actually helping you there with that problem. Manoj, thank you. Happy New Year. Yeah, hope to see you again soon. Luke saying, yeah, that really interesting about the UK banks. Yeah, I always get the acronym wrong. I think it's PSD2. Kind of sounds like a Star Wars robot. But yeah, it's something like that, or PRD2 was the actual legislation that was passed. And in fact, interesting tidbit, I could get these exact numbers wrong, but somebody told me once that there were literally 0 new banking licenses. So in the UK, you have to essentially get a banking license to operate a bank. There were no banking licenses from like 1974 to like 2012 or 2013, 0. And then from like 2013 or 14 on, as this legislation was like on the horizon or about to pass, there were like 50 or 60. So there were literally no new banks for, 40, 50 years. And then a whole lot of new banks. So pretty easy to see how that's going to create a lot of new innovation and hopefully better services for consumers. Michael is saying with iOS 14 out, will we have widget support in the near future? So I think specifically you're talking about like the iOS versions of widgets. On the same AMA, I was talking about what IFT calls widgets, but I think iOS in version 14 has their own kind of flavor of widgets. We're taking a close look at that, especially as they relate to the IFT widgets. But there's probably also some other interesting things we can do around activity feed and other shortcuts. So yes, we'd like to do something there, but we're still kind of in the research phase in terms of what's possible and how that maps to what IFT can do. If you have some really clear ideas or some things you'd like to see, please let us know the specifics, either here, or I think even easier might be just to hit me up on Twitter, and I'll forward all that to our team. Luke, you're thinking about being able to trigger an if thing based on the fact that I'm close to a Bluetooth device. Got it. Yes. So understood. I do think that's something that we need to look into, what we can actually do in terms of a mobile app, getting access to which Bluetooth devices you're connected to. I know my guess is on Android, you probably have a little bit freer access there, but I see what you're asking. It's a little less about kind of the specific Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, like tag devices like Tile, and maybe more just general Bluetooth, which Bluetooth devices am I connected to or not. We do have some pretty interesting stuff that a number of the router companies, so like check out like TP-Link, Google has a router. There's a couple others that are escaping me that are all available on IFT, and they actually have some really interesting things you can do largely around Wi-Fi connections, but you're able to kind of track which devices are connected to the Wi-Fi, which devices leave the Wi-Fi, and kind of use that as a proxy. So that might be another way, Luke, to get at that use case. So give those services a look and see what's available. Mike is asking, pick a charity for any profits for the swag. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're back to the swag. Yeah, we probably wouldn't do it to make a profit. We don't want to be in the swag business. And maybe if we did make some money selling some of the stuff, maybe sending that to charity would be a good idea. So Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. We should look into it. The fact that you're interested and all you've seen is just this part of the sweatshirt and you want one, probably means other people do too. So we'll definitely take a look. Leonardo is saying, would we be able to introduce a delayed action? Yes, that's been a common request. It can be a little challenging for us depending on how long the delay is. A delay of a number of seconds up to a minute probably isn't that big a deal. But delaying something for 5, 10, 20 minutes starts to become challenging just in terms of the way our infrastructure and system is set up. It's certainly possible. I think it ends up being a heavier lift than just like adding a new action or something like that. Depending on what it is you want to do, there are a number of services that allow you to delay. Adding that delay is on our backlog. So it's, I'm not making an excuse for why we're not going to do it, as much as it's a little bit of a bigger lift to actually pull off in a scalable way. And that's one of the reasons we haven't tackled it yet. But it's we've heard a number of folks ask for that and can understand why that would be useful just in general in terms of any action being able to be delayed. Michael is saying you've been a huge power load. I guess it means you're a huge fan of the widgets. Would love to see the if buttons that are currently in Notification Center be placed anywhere as widgets. Yes. In fact, even the widgets as they exist today in the IFT apps, I don't think we've supported those as well as we'd like to. There's a number of little bugs, even things that I've logged recently that we'd like to fix. So, first we want to fix those. Next week, we should look at the actual iOS widgets themselves and the if widgets, getting together in some type of holy matrimony. So yes, I think that's a great idea. Francisco, hi, you're saying the Pro version could be a little cheaper for Colombia users. Yes, right now the Pro is, kind of like locked onto, a USD dollar price. You, of course, can pay in different ways via either a bank or credit card or Google Pay. We even support kind of PayPal through a workaround. But we haven't done the work to either localize some of the prices or even localize some of the interface. So I think we've got a whole lot of work ahead of us to make IFT both more affordable, but also more accessible for folks that don't speak English. So we've got a lot of work to do there, and are definitely aware of that. So please don't be silent. Keep letting us know. But we're working towards that, and we definitely intend to think more critically about specific locales, specific countries, in either their language needs or other needs, like making sure that price points make sense in those countries. Michael, you're asking, it's a complicated question, so thanks for the disclaimer there. Is there a way to reduce the time when the poll triggers? So yes, just by upgrading to Pro, you go from, for the poll-based triggers, you go from what is basically kind of a 15-minute, or we say within the hour, down to 5 minutes. So that's one way. To make it go any faster than that for poll-based triggers is pretty challenging. So a lot of the times, those poll-based triggers like Spotify are based on just limitations on what's available from their APIs. And so to poll those much more frequently, we would bump into rate limits or take down servers. There's just, an infrastructure limit there in terms of how much polling we can do and how fast we can do it. So the real fix there is to move, to work with a service like Spotify or someone else to move anything that's poll-based to what we call real time. And that's basically kind of a subscription and push, kind of like, people call them webhooks in some situations. And that's much more scalable and much faster. It goes from minutes to milliseconds. So that's really the next big step beyond the 5-minute kind of polling that you get for Pro. So in terms of use cases and things, there might be other ways that we can help you work around that. So maybe hit me up on Twitter if you have more details on, kind of why you want Spotify to pull faster than 5 minutes. We might be able to suggest some ways to make that better. Startup Sanatana. I remember you from other AMAs. Welcome back. What are the new offerings for the new year? New offerings, a lot of what we've talked about before, and some even in this AMA. So things like multiple accounts per service. We want to get to applet editing. Mentioned our team is hard at work on that right now. So we're adding, the ability for not only can you use like multiple actions and queries when you create a new applet, but you can actually add those to existing applets. And I think even going one step further there, be able to take a community published applet. So say, iRobot publishes an applet, a user uses that applet and then wants to tweak it or change it, add an action, add a query, they can then turn that applet into their own without having to create it all over again from scratch. So that's something that at least here, hopefully right in the first month or two, that will have, and it'll help both pros and regular users in different situations basically save time and not have to, kind of start from scratch every time they want to tweak something that's already working for them. So that's going to be hopefully a hugely impactful change. And that's hopefully coming very soon. The other thing we discussed on this AMA is, we identified at the end of last year, there's still a lot of work that IFT can do on some of the IFT-owned services. So things that aren't attached to a brand where there's some dependence on that brand doing some work or changing something about their API. So things like, in this AMA, we talked about Android Battery. That's a service that IFT owns and operates. We can add things to that or do additional things that would have, I think, a lot of people excited to use them. And we should just do those right away. So hopefully you'll see some things like the Android and iOS services evolve at a bit of a quicker pace than they did over the last 12 months. Leonardo, makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for hopping on and asking some good questions. Hippie and Magic, thank you. We'll keep up the good work. Michael Harris, you got it. We have more JSON values. Yes. So that's one that's top of the list. It should be really easy to add. Right now we support 3 or 4. We want to expand that. Maybe we'll just get crazy and say 10, but there should be no reason why we can't add that fairly quickly. And hopefully that gives people some more flexibility with what they're doing with webhooks. So I think we're probably running right down to the end here. Might take some of the last few questions, but if anybody has any, kind of final questions, maybe post them in here in the next minute or so. I'll knock those out, and then we'll wrap up for the day and get on to the next thing. So any last second questions, things I can answer, let us know. Jim Wells says you're looking forward to multiple accounts. Yes, that's if I had a penny for every time I heard that request, I'd maybe not a millionaire, but I might be able to retire. So, and that's not a complaint. It just means that people really want it. So we hear it loud and clear, and we've got to take action there. Let's see. Hippie and Magic saying looking a Clubhouse app. Yes. I'm not sure what they do in terms of APIs, but I can see all kinds of ways in which that could be useful. And it seems like that's just taking off more and more. So it's something we should look at and try to work together with them. Startup Sanatana says, better to localize even the finance related things. Credit card sucks in COVID. Yes. Okay. Another +1 for localization. It's something we're looking into. We'll probably start around some of the credit card and kind of pro account stuff first. The effort to localize across the entire UI across different languages is a little bit higher than that. And it seems like because we've gotten away with that for 10 years, we might be able to get away with it for another few months. But yeah, we've heard loud and clear from folks, especially in other countries, where that translation between US dollars and their local currency ends up just not making sense for them. So I agree. Ooh, Mark, this is a great last question. When making a cup of tea, do you add the milk first or should you add the milk last? Well, I'd say there's really no wrong way. In fact, there's probably a lot of people that make tea without milk, so it's neither. If it were up to me, and if I was making the tea or the coffee, I would say add the milk first, because then when you pour in the tea, you don't have to stir. You know, it's all just kind of mixes in much more naturally. So that would be my answer, but wouldn't discriminate about against anybody that did it a different way. Oh, Hippie and Magic says milk last. Okay. Yep. Right off the bat, we have somebody that's on the other side of the fence. That's okay. We still love you on the milk first side. Well, cool. Thank you all. Again, this is Linden Tibbets, founder and CEO at IFTTT. Really enjoy doing these. We learn a whole lot. So keep the questions coming. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter. In the meantime, at LTibbets on Twitter. And again, check out our YouTube channel, subscribe. We've got a whole lot more video content coming, not just these AMAs and not just my ugly face. We've got some better looking and I think even sharper folks that are kind of way down in the details that are creating some videos coming out soon. And check out some of the videos Ben's been doing. They've been awesome. Yeah, we'll see you back here shortly. Cheers. Thank you all.